What is happening, man?
This is still.
Hello again, this is Preheat. Welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. So today we're going to answer a question I keep getting. What is the best mage spec in the raid? This is the #1 question I get at this point in the PTR, every single PTR cycle. And today we're going to answer that question in the most foolproof and scientific way possible with a tier list. So let's talk about what we're going to be qualifying in this tier list to determine which one is best and the methodology we're going to use here. So #1, we're going to go boss by boss. I'm going to go in order of how we tested the bosses. And I'm going to rank these based on 3 criteria. So #1, is it good? Like, does it have good damage? Does the damage fit well in the fight? #2 is going to be, is it a good fit in other ways, like utility, defensiveness? Does it have like any other special thing that it can do in the fight that the other ones can't? And #3 is just going to be if I had fun playing it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and look at the first boss here in our lineup. So this is the Forgeweaver. So on this one, I'm playing Arcane. I did actually play this spec as Fire, Arcane, and Frost. Overall, what's really good about Arcane on this fight is that there are damage amps, and also there's a lot of cleave. You'll be seeing it happening here. So this is actually mythic. And what's going to happen is these little portals are going to spawn, and then there's orbs that you have to kill before they reach the portal. You'll see them spawn with a shield up here. So let's just go ahead and fast forward just a little bit. Or actually, it's about to happen here. So these lines, these are going to spawn the orbs right here, the orbs. So they come out with these seals and they run really, really fast. And basically, you have to clear it with the orbs. So you put them behind the orb. And the idea is you want to have like the boss or like the mini boss on top of this so that you can cleave off of it, right? So Arcane's just like really good for this situation because you're getting funnel out of it whenever you're cleaving onto the boss. And I will say Frost and Fire are actually pretty good for this too. So if you're Fire, whenever you're doing this, basically what you're looking to do is set up like a meteor on this thing and cleave your ignites onto the ads. So just to give you an idea of what it looks like as Fire instead of Arcane. So like whenever these ads are about to spawn, right? Obviously, if you have like a meteor and you can save it for it, it's pretty good. I don't think I did it on this set, but I started doing it after this set. Basically cleave those ignites onto the ads, right? Drop a meteor on them. It's a ton of burst damage. As Frost, what you do is you just do a Cone of Cold combo, right? So if you run the talent Cold to Snap, then you can basically hit these with a Frozen Orb and a Comet Storm if you're like Frostfire, and then hit the Cold to Snap Cone of Cold, and then do it again, and it's a ton of burst damage. So actually, all 3 mage specs are pretty good for this. Fire, Frost, and Arcane are pretty strong here. However, we have to choose a king. So it's going to go to Spellslinger Arcane. That's going to be #1 this fight. I mean, it's a damage amp fight, right? And if this is anywhere tuned where the damage matters, I think you're going to want to play Spellslinger Arcane because not only do you get really good ad damage, you also get more damage on the boss whenever there's cleave, and especially during the damage amp, which happens like later on here. So once you kill these collector things, basically the boss comes out and he's got a damage amp, and then these attendants are going to be on top of the boss during this, and you can just send all your cooldowns. It is a little awkward to hold your cooldowns to make it line up with these damage amps, but very, very potent, very powerful. And yeah, I gotta say, this one definitely seems like more of an Arcane angle. We'll just go ahead and fast forward here and show you the kill. So here's the end of the pull, and then basically there's all this suck that happens where you're getting sucked towards this kill wall, and then you kill the boss. Yeah, Arcane was just like a treat to play on this fight, I gotta say. So big fan of playing Arcane on this one. I think for this one, we definitely have to put Spellslinger in the S tier. Now, right behind it, we have to put Frostfire, but I don't know if I can put it on the S tier with Spellslinger Arcane. I will say it is nice to have Cauterize. So if you're doing this fight for the first time and it's progression, Cauterize might just save you on the pull where you might have died otherwise. So that's just really nice. The damage on it is pretty good. I think it will be slightly behind Arcane, but not too far off. And if you enjoy Fire more, then probably just play, Frostfire Fire on this. And then when it comes to the next one, I think Frostfire Frost is probably up here with Fire as well on the A tier. I don't think it's going to make it to the S tier with Arcane. And Spellslinger Frost, I did actually try this and I did not enjoy it. So it actually felt like it was fairly strong. I think it's probably just about as strong as Frostfire on this. But you have to use Blizzard a lot. So like depending on how you play it, it can be a little bit annoying because stuff will just like move out of the blizzards. You can kind of like lead the ads with the blizzards, but it's still just, I don't know. I don't really like playing Frost in general. I will say Frostfire Frost has the edge where you're using a lot of meteors and you're doing a lot of cold snaps, and that feels really awesome. But whenever you're playing Spellslinger and you're doing the same thing, I don't know, it just doesn't have the same feel to it. And then, of course, we have to put Sun Fury, both of them, in the I hate myself category. And you're going to see this happen a lot because the current Sun Fury tier bonus is just not fun to play. In fact, it's probably the worst thing ever. because if you die at any point in the fight and you get res, not only do you lose, let's say for fire, you lose your cooldown on your combustion. So whatever combustion you had, that's gone. Also, your next combustion is going to be way longer. So you're going to be doing basically no damage for a really, really long time because you lost all the CDR from UI because you died. That's how it is on live. But on top of that, you also have a tier bonus that's really, really strong that you basically lose if you die. It's like Spy Masters, but like ×5, right? So the way I like to describe Sun Fury right now, it's basically if you die, it's like you have res sickness. And you're taking on like a huge amount of risk using this tier bonus, but there's no real reward because it's undertuned. So I'm sure once they tune things up, like this will change, but I have to put those both in the I hate myself category just because, it's just not the same experience. The cooldowns, everything about how things line up, it just doesn't have the same feeling. Like if you compare Sun Fury to Frostfire, Frost is just not even close. Meteor is just really strong on this fight with all the Comet Storms. And if you compare Sun Fury Arcane versus Spellslinger, it's just not nearly as good either because the orbs are just really awesome. So anyways, this is going to be it for the Forgeweaver boss. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so next up is the Soul Hunter. So this is a fight that's basically 2-target cleave the entire time with a additional target in there sometimes as well. And also there's an intermission with a single target. So it's like 2 to 3 targets plus some 1 target during the intermission. Kind of a perfect scenario for all 3 mage specs, I'll be honest with you. But I think Frostfire actually has an edge here because it just does a stupid amount of damage with its ignite damage. Now, you could also say that Spellslinger Arcane probably can perform just the same. I think it's going to come down to like how you actually end up doing this fight. But one thing that Fire has that, well, 2 things actually, that Fire has on Arcane is number 1, Fire is super mobile. So it is a lot easier to do this fight whenever you can move around. You don't really see it happening yet, but this fight gets very hectic with the amount of movement that you need to do. And on top of that, it is also very easy to die on this fight. There's a lot of damage, and Cauterize does some heavy lifting on this one. So yeah, overall, Frost, Fire, and Arcane should be pretty good damage-wise on this one. I think Mage is just like a generally good fit for this fight. And the cleave nature of it, kind of like the push timings, whatever they end up doing with this fight in the end, it's definitely going to come down to that, on which one is best numerically and the tuning and all that. But we're going off of how it was in the testing whenever I did it, and this is the mythic version of the fight. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and have to hand this one over to Frostfire Fire. I don't think the other mage specs will be able to perform as well as Frostfire Fire on this in the current state of the balance on the PTR. However, right after that, we have Spellslinger Arcane, and we have Frostfire Frost using the Coldest Snap tech with the meteors. That's pretty fun to play. And also we have Spellslinger Frost. In fact, this is probably ahead of Frostfire. I don't know how to put these. It's one of these two. Yeah, I don't know if Frost or Arcane can really match the damage of Fire on this one. Sun Fury is probably pretty good on this too, but again, if you die on this fight, which is very easy to die on this fight, you're going to have res sickness and it's just not going to be fun. So I don't really recommend playing either of these. Anyways, let's move on to the next boss. All right, next up we have Fractillus, and this is one of those bosses where weak auras are basically doing the fight for you. However, I will say our weak auras weren't perfect in this fight, and we kind of had to YOLO it in the last half, and it actually wasn't too bad as long as we had like a good start to figure this out. So I'm sure you could do some sort of strat where you don't use a weak aura, but yeah, weak aura is definitely going to help quite a bit. This is another one of those fights where it is very fast-paced, very short, high damage, very easy to die. One thing that's kind of annoying this Fire on this one is that the boss is really far away. Like anytime they do this big boss model thing as Fire, it's just really annoying because your spells take forever to actually hit the boss. So it just kind of feels bad. There's like a disjointedness to your spells, and that's kind of a problem for Arcane, Frost, and Fire, but I think Fire actually has a bigger issue with it. So yeah, I think overall when it comes to damage, the best spec on this fight is probably going to come down to the kill time, because you can see here, like we have Arcane Mage ahead because there's a lot of burst on the pull. If we go ahead and fast forward just a bit, as kind of things have moved on in the fight, you'll see Fire kind of like coming up. Just going to keep scrubbing forward here just so you can see. So like, yeah, as the fight is kind of winding down here, you'll see Fire still doing pretty well, just very consistent damage. And then with our kill time, I think we ended up basically killing the boss like right as my combustion was coming up. Oh, actually, this is not the pull. We killed the boss. I'll just show the kill pull here. So let's go ahead and fast forward. Okay, I found the kill pull. So yeah, here it is at the very end of the fight. The boss is at 6%, Fire's ahead here. And then at the very last second, I'm trying to get my combustion cooldown to come right up. Here at the very end, I have about 13 seconds left on it. And then look at what happens here in the last couple seconds of the fight. Watch that damage meter. As this thing is winding down, keep in mind, we don't have AUG in this, right? So just, bear that in mind. Going for the SKB, the boss dies at the very last second. The Arcane Mage pulled ahead. So yeah, I mean, this is one of those fights where, again, it's going to come down to the kill time. It's going to come down to what your personal preference is. I think both Fire and Arcane just aren't generally like a great fit for this fight with the current tuning, just because there's a lot of classes that have like a lot more single target damage. So I think in terms of like the overall tuning, it's probably more like this. It's probably like Fire and Spellslinger Arcane are probably about tied. I'm going to put Arcane behind Fire here, because if it's this close where they're within like 1% or whatever on your kill, you're probably better off playing Fire. You're going to be more mobile. You're going to have Cauterize, so you'll be safer. Also, another thing is that on this pull, I actually let my Improved Scorch fall like a couple times, and you saw me like interrupt an SKB at the very end of the fight, so I don't think I was even playing it all that well. And then for Frost, I mean, it's going to be kind of the same deal, but I don't really enjoy playing it. So, I mean, it's probably about the same damage-wise, but I'm going to go ahead and count against it, right? If I don't enjoy the spec, if I'm not having fun, at least it's a short fight. So maybe, you know, maybe Spellslinger Frost is actually up here. But yeah, and then Sun Fury, you know, obligatory, put it in I hate myself, because if you die anytime as Sun Fury, you're going to feel really bad. And if you're playing it, your damage is undertuned. So why are you playing it? Yeah, they need to do something about this hero talent. Anyways, let's move on. All right, next up is Nexus-King. Now on Mythic, we actually didn't really get far in this fight at all. We got to like the intermission, we wiped every time, and it's just kind of an insane fight. It was giving me Tendril vibes. So yeah, this boss is going to be super duper hard. But I will say there are some things I learned from this testing that I feel like you should know. So I was playing Fire in this because I just wanted to get some value out of Cheat Death, because I knew it was going to be a really hard fight and I wanted to make sure I was able to live as long as possible. However, that ended up just being a complete bait, because Cauterize doesn't even work on this fight. It doesn't save you because you get mind control before you die. And these beams are just like absolutely ruthless. Like they're just constantly coming through the middle of the fight here. And at the very start, I mean, it's just like a pure single target fight. So you're not going to really see Mage doing too well at this part. The mobility is definitely really nice, but where Mage is going to pop off in this fight is during the cleave portions. And there's also damage amp that happens as well in this one. So yeah, you're not going to see it doing very well in the meters here, just let you know. But I think Mage is actually good on this fight. But specifically, I think you're going to want to play either Arcane or Fire on this. I'm actually leaning towards Arcane. I think Spellslinger Arcane is probably going to be the GOAT on this one. All right, so I pulled up logs from Heroic just to kind of show this, because I feel like it's important to understand where the fight actually ends up going. This is one of the pulls where I ended up dying, but it's one of our better pulls, so I'll just show it anyways. And yeah, this is before they buffed Spellslinger Arcane, because this was from the Heroic testing. But the big thing is, like, during the damage amp, you do a crap ton of damage if you have all your cooldowns and everything ready for this. If you save stuff for this point in the fight, it is just very, very strong. So yeah, you can see here's like the ad platform on ours. The Boomkin just deletes our ads, so we don't really get to use our Touch the Magi. Unfortunately, Pat and I just get completely screwed there. Yeah, Druids seem to be doing that on the PTR because they're a little bit busted. But then whenever there's the damage amp in stage 2, Mage actually does fairly well there too. So yeah, overall, I think probably if we have to rank this, I think Spellslinger Arcane is going to be the GOAT on this fight. So we're just going to put that one up there. I think Frostfire Fire is probably okay, so I'm going to put it in the A tier. And I also think Spellslinger Frost was doing pretty well on this one. I saw logs of like some Spellslinger Frost mages doing fairly well, so we're going to put it up here. I didn't test it myself. And then, of course, Frostfire Frost. I don't really know where to put this one, so I'm going to exclude it. And then on the Sun Fury side, you definitely have to hate yourself to play that on this fight, 100%. Because your cooldowns are too long whenever you do like the platform that you're holding them for to try and get as much damage there. They're too long because of the Sun Fury tier bonus giving you like elongated cooldowns. And on top of that, your cooldowns are too long for the damage amp, so it doesn't really work in that case. So overall, like I think Sun Fury is even worse on this fight than it is normally. So I'm not even accounting for like the tier bonus res sickness thing that I was talking about before. Like is actually just a terrible fit for this fight. So yeah, that's gonna be it for the penultimate boss. Let's move on to the first boss. All right, so the first boss of every raid is always a gigantic meme. So it really doesn't matter what you play. You're probably just going to go into it and one-shot it if you are prepared for the boss. But I will say this is a fight that's very hectic, and there are a lot of ads that come out. It is actually still pretty easy to die on this fight, especially if you don't know what you're doing, but that could be said for any fight. One thing that Mage is actually very good at on this fight is whenever there's these circles. So I'm just going to let this play just a little bit to show you the mechanics here. You dodge through the wall with the cloak there, and then there's like the circle thing you have to soak. It's going to be happening here in just a moment. We'll skip ahead. Oh, here it is. Okay, yeah, so this thing, basically you have to have a certain amount of people soak this or else it blows up and it wipes everyone. And whenever you soak it, it knocks you out of it. So you can just alter time this, right? So you take the first soak, normally have this assigned, but Mage can just do 2 every time, basically. So you take your alter boom, and then you take it again, then you shimmer. So yeah, Mage is just like really great on this one. There's like an intermission phase where you have to like go through the walls, get back to the boss. There's like some little ads you kill on the way in. Nothing too crazy. I think we actually did kind of like slow DPS on this fight, and we waited for the last shield to pop, and then we did the intermission just for fun, and then we killed the boss here. And yeah, I mean, like Frostfire fire was pretty good on this one, but a lot of it's probably because of how we like ended up doing the kill time. I think Arcane will probably do just as fine on this boss. Same with Spellslinger Frost. I think they're all just really good on this fight. I'm gonna put Fire ahead because it has cheat death, and it's an easy meme boss, so you're gonna kill it probably really easily no matter what. So having that cheat death is probably really, really nice for you, just in case something happens. And then I think honestly the other two are up here too. It seems like all the mage specs are fairly good here. We'll go ahead and give Sun Fury a treat. We'll put it into B tier together here. Actually, Arcane's probably up here in the A tier. And then, yeah, Frostfire Fire, we'll put it ahead of Arcane here. Yeah, it's probably a little bit better. So yeah, that's going to be first boss. Let's move on to the next one. All right, next up is Loom'ithar, and this is actually kind of a neat boss, even though it is just kind of like a second boss, not too difficult. But basically how it works is you've got like these webs that are constantly coming in, and you have to break these little knots on them with the frontal, and then you have to kill these in order to get on the outside. And there's also these pylons that you'll see later in the fight that you have to keep soaking, even though you have to like escape through one of these holes. So basically it seems like mage and tanks or people with immunities just in general are like really good for this, because you can actually just like blink through the walls. It's really nice. Just be careful though, if the boss has, there's a mechanic where like the boss like tethers you and pulls you back. If the boss does that and you're on the opposite side of the wall, whenever it pulls you back, it's going to pull you into the wall and kill you. But yeah, so fire, like on the first one, I don't really even bother looking at the other ads. I just like, spread my ignite, but usually they don't even make it because everyone has so much damage in Lust. So I don't even look at those, but later on you'll see me kind of like changing to those targets, swapping off of them. And I was playing like super ethically on the other sets here. On this kill, and actually fire still did pretty good damage. So you can see like these pylon things that you have to soak, you have to run out for like a giant circle thing, and then yeah, whenever these like lines pop up, obviously attack those. Frostfire fire is like pretty good for that. I think Arcane would probably be good, but the issue is like if this ever lines up with a touch of the Magi window, those things do not have enough health, right? Kind of the same issue that fire has, like trying to get ignite value. By the time they get to the boss, they're probably dead anyways, and you want them dead by that point. So like spreading ignite doesn't really help you too much. But since there's 2 of them, if you attack one right away, you can spread ignite to the other one. That's great. Arcane can probably do really good damage on those, but it would cause you to not use your cooldowns there unless you're attacking the boss, because you're just going to lose your touch. Anyway, so there is a damage amp to happen. So basically after you get to, I think it's like 40%, you can see me doing the shimmer there to keep soaking the pylon. Boss is going to come down from the ceiling. I think we just milked it a little bit. Yeah, okay, I misspoke. It's 50% whenever that happens. But yeah, so damage amp in the last phase, so better execute damage. I mean, definitely like Arcane could be really, really good on this fight if you had like a really short kill time. Like let's imagine later into like farm, whenever you have your Arcane Surge basically line up perfectly with the damage amp, and you just like pop Lust and you just absolutely destroy the boss. I think Arcane will just do like astronomical amounts of damage on it. But my ranking is kind of based on what I think they'll be for progression, right? Not for farm. And it is also really nice. Again, I keep saying it, but it is really nice to have Cauterize on this fight. It's just, don't sleep on Caud. Caud is just so comfy, and having super mobility so comfy, right? Also, you have to soak things in this last phase. I forgot to mention that, but there's like these circles. You soak like a frontal. But yeah, pretty straightforward boss. Kind of a gimmicky boss, but still pretty fun. And here is our kill of the boss. You'll see it going down right here. Boom. So when it comes to ranking, I think Frost probably really, really good on this fight. Same with Fire. I think they're both very good on this fight. For farm, I would probably put Spellslinger Arcane like at the very top here. If you can line it up really nicely with your execute, it'll probably do more damage than the other two. But I think for progression, it's probably going to be just like right here on the S tier with the rest of them. In fact, it may even be A tier, just because the touch timings and stuff can be really annoying. And the ads that you have to break, like those little webs, those are like the most important thing to do in the fight, to not wipe. And Arcane's not very good at that, and I think Frost and Fire are both pretty good at that. So I'm going to have to take that as a mark against Arcane. I think probably Sun Fury Arcane is going to be here with C. I don't think you want to play Sun Fury Fire. I'm not sure where to put Frostfire Frost in this one, so I'm just going to kind of put it in the A tier because I think it has all the same benefits as Spellslinger. It's just that maybe with the way that like Comet Storm and Meteors work, it might be annoying whenever you're trying to hit like a moving target, because as Frost, whenever you try to use it, you don't get to like place it yourself. It goes on the target, and since they move really fast, I think it might just like dodge your Comet Storm and Meteor like every time. So I'm going to go ahead and count that against it. All right, and last up is Soulbinder, and this is just a amazing fight for Spellslinger, Arcane, and also Frostfire Fire. Basically, the way this boss works is it summons like these adds and these little canisters, and you have to hit them with mechanics to break them out. And whatever adds you don't break out are going to break out on their own at 2 minutes and 4:30. And then there's other sets if you like let the fight go on long enough. Kind of an easy meme boss, so I don't really think there's like too much to really worry about like what's the meta when it comes to this boss. I think the boss is just going to fall over and die. Could be wrong about that, but it felt like the easiest boss that we tested, even easier than the first boss. But yeah, I'm just going to kind of show you what happens here at like 2 minutes. So this is like perfect lineup for Frostfire. As the adds all break out, basically, I always had my combustion ready. I always pressed my trinket. I always had like all of these meteors that I'm just constantly dropping on the adds. I'm spreading these massive ignites, huge amount of Comet Storm damage and meteor damage. And it just felt like really, really good to play fire on this fight. This is probably the best feeling firefight in the entire raid. Just going to go ahead and skip ahead here because, again, I don't want to spend too much time on the boss because it's pretty easy. Now, I do have to mention I am getting Ogged in this fight and I get PI. So, I mean, like I was doing a lot of damage, so it made sense to do that. But this is what the logs actually said on it. So it's like 7.2 overall. Yeah. Very, very good firefight. I think probably a pretty good arcane fight, but I don't think it really has the same overall damage potential as fire. I don't think funnel is really a concern on this fight because you're going to just like destroy the boss anyways. So let's go ahead and move on to the ranking. Frostfire Fire on this boss, absolutely S tier. I don't think anything holds a candle to it. I think A tier for Spellslinger Arcane. When it comes to Frost is actually pretty good on this fight, but I didn't really find it to be fun at all. It wasn't enjoyable for me, so I'm going to rank it down here in the B tier. And then I think if you're playing Sunfury Arcane on this one, it's probably one of the worst fits because the cleave, you know, you just get so much more value out of the cleave whenever you're using the orbs, right? So it just doesn't really play to Sunfury's strength, even if the tier bonus was good. And then when it comes to Sunfury Fire, if Sunfury Fire was actually tuned to be fairly good, I think this would actually be S tier for Sunfury Fire as well. The issue is that the tuning is just not good, so I'm going to put it in the B tier here. When it comes to the last boss, all we can do is make assumptions based on the dungeon journal. We know that fight's going to have a lot of cleave. We know it's going to be really hard because it's an end boss. We know that there's going to be huge damage amps, so it's probably going to be an arcane angle, but we could be surprised. You know, when it comes to like what spec is best in the early raid, that's never what the best spec is for the raid, right? It's all about the harder bosses. That's where you spend most of your time. And if we look, yes, Frostfire Fire does have more bosses it's probably better at. However, a lot of those bosses are only going to take you 1 to 10 pulls. So it's really about the bosses that are going to take a whole lot of pulls to know what the best spec is. And the answer is there is no best spec in this raid. It depends on the boss. Now, if you told me that I could only play one spec in the raid and I had to just lock it in and just play every single boss as that spec, I would choose Spellslinger Arcane for this raid. However, that's not how it works. And Frostfire Fire has a lot different stat values. Arcane is kind of like different in some other ways as well. So there's a lot of overlap on what stats are best. You can easily swap between them. So just play whatever makes sense for that boss. There's no reason to commit to a spec right now. Also on top of that, there's going to be obviously tuning that's going to happen. There's going to be other things that change in the PTR. So calling anything this early is always kind of a wash. I just made this video so that I could post it to people whenever they ask me the question, what's the best? And that way they would have an answer that includes all the nuance I want to include while also giving them some actual information and some, hopefully something that's a satisfying answer as well. So anyways, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.
Last time you have 3 tools you're looking for.
Oh my god.
Okay, that is demonic. Wait,
What the fuck?
What is it following?
What is happening, man?
It's just chill. It's just chill. It's just chill.
Oh yeah.
I think it's chill. I think it's just chill.
Oh, no, they added,
Spot
in that one. They added lines so you can see where they start. It's actually easy.
How nice. Oh yeah, it's actually easy, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually.
The ads are all
think about it.
stacked, so you don't need a grip. That's so